Hello, my beautiful friends. How are you? Has your week been okay? How was the rest of your week? How's it going? Isn't it weird that it's December now? I feel like this year has just completely flown by. It's gone by in a blink of an eye. If I were to look back at who I was at the beginning of this year till now, I don't think I'd recognize myself, to be honest. So today, my friends, we are talking about self-sabotaging behavior. Now, this is something I have struggled with the majority of my life. I still struggle with it, but it's not as extreme, which is really nice. There are different types of self-sabotaging behavior. Me just talking about self-sabotaging behavior can be quite a broad, generalized topic, and there's different variables of self-sabotaging, but I'm simply talking about my own life experience and how it's shown up for me. I suffered with PTSD, depression, and anxiety for the majority of my life and never took it seriously, always ignored it. And then when I started actually healing my mental health and dealing with my traumas and healing from them, that is when the majority of my self-sabotaging behavior stopped. So if you're new here and you're not just stopping by, hi, hello, my name is Sabby and this is Beautifully Broken. This is a platform I started to help heal my own mental health as well as try to help others by sharing my experience, tips, tools, knowledge, and guidance. I have overcome PTSD, depression, and anxiety. It's still a lifelong journey, but I have found better, healthier ways to overcome some of that. I also have a mental health podcast called Proper Madness. It's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, so be sure to go search for that and listen to it. If you like the video versions of podcasts, I have those on my channel. So, if you like mental health podcasts and you suffer with your mental health or you know someone who does, then I definitely recommend subscribing. If you subscribe, it would mean so much to me for you to be a part of my beautiful friends community. Talking about this is difficult because in a weird way it's me kind of facing my old behavior. I didn't like myself very much when I exhibited some of these behaviors. I pretended like I did, I had like this sort of fake confidence about myself, but ultimately looking back and having to heal my relationship with my previous self has been difficult. When you have self-sabotaging behaviors, honestly, like they ruin relationships, they ruin friendships, family, friends, partners, you name it. The majority of my life, unfortunately, I was in a lot of pain and didn't know any better, but that's not an excuse for my behavior. I very much believed that I didn't deserve nice things for a multitude of reasons. The first reason was because I felt a lot of shame around being happy. If you've listened, I was on this podcast called 1 in 5 Stigma, and in that I tell the story of my life and what I've been through, just kind of like a synopsis. So if you ever want to hear about all the traumas that I've been through, but like a really quick version, just so you have an idea of understanding where I've come from, I'll link it down below. I grew up with a lot of shame around feeling happy and around worthiness and self-love. I didn't love myself at all, but I always pretended like I did. Which in your young adulthood is, kind of normal, unless you have awesome parents that are super emotionally healthy and teach you those building blocks and foundations of how to build a healthy self-esteem. I never had that. And it's not my parents' fault. They just, they didn't know what they didn't know. How self-sabotaging then showed up for me later on in life, now because I had depression my entire life, and was on and off of medication, in and out of therapy, and never really dealt with the core root of things, I started exhibiting certain behaviors that ultimately pushed a lot of people away. It was like I was always trying to prove to myself that I didn't deserve certain things. Um, like I was always trying to prove to myself that I didn't deserve to be happy, or I had severe abandonment issues. So I would push people away to kind of prove to myself that, look, see, like, people always leave you, you know? I was always responding emotionally as like a 12 and 13-year-old who was feeling a lot and didn't know what to do with it, and just wanted to be accepted and liked by people, because I didn't feel accepted and liked at home or by my own self. I didn't accept or like myself. And I was always trying to be what other people wanted me to be. So that brings me to my first self-sabotaging characteristic, was people pleasing. Now, with people pleasing, it's a fine line. It is a codependent behavior. I have struggled with codependency. For me, people pleasing is self-sabotaging because I'm self-sabotaging my own needs, my own identity, my own sense of self, because I felt like I didn't deserve to do anything for myself. After that came lying. Oh boy. I lied so much in my young adulthood about things because I wanted attention. I wasn't getting any attention as a kid. I felt invisible all the time. But then the attention that I would get was always negative. It was either I was bad in school, or boys were making fun of the way that I looked, or my parents would be, telling me that my grades were awful. It was quite, like, I had a quite strict and rigid upbringing, and I was always being told what was wrong with me, not what was right with me. Sometimes I had a lot of hot and cold behavior from both my parents growing up, as either like, you're doing great, we love you, or you suck, you're stupid. Like, there was no middle. I lied a lot to my peers about, where I would be or who I was hanging out with, or I would lie a lot about injuries in school, like in high school, just to get attention and to have people feel bad for me, because I just wanted someone to care about me, and that wasn't right. Like, I one time lied about having a sickness, which was just real dumb. I lied about having a whole other sibling, which was also dumb. I lied about so many things because I just wanted to fit in. I don't know, I always felt like the black sheep. So I lied about a lot. I even did it in college, actually. I lied about all sorts of things because I was just so alone. Like, people who lie about their lives and who they are and what they're up to and who they're with, and just to feel popular or just to feel relevant, it's because they just feel so alone inside and neglected that they want other people to like them. And there's nothing okay with that. I'm not condoning that, because I did that for the majority of my life, and when you lie so much like that, you don't even know who you are anymore. The third way that self-sabotaging showed up for me in my life was substance abuse. So, I struggled with a lot of drug use in college. In high school, I got into drinking around 16, abused it, meaning like I would sneak alcohol from my parents' bar downstairs and use that as a way to feel better, and to sleep, because I had such bad anxiety about going to school because I was bad at school. And then in college, it was when the substance abuse was at its worst. I went to some like music festivals. That was like big back then when I was in college, and of course, like, I always thought about experimenting safely, but then I started abusing it as a way to hide from my own emotional issues. I was very depressed all throughout college and never told anyone about it. Instead would use drugs to not feel anything, or party to not feel anything. And even some of my people pleasing came up through the partying atmosphere. Like, everyone else around me was doing all these drugs and they looked so cool and they were so accepted and they had all these friends, and that's how people were socializing and getting close and having like these deep, meaningful conversations. So I thought, okay, well, if I do what they're doing, then maybe I'll be more accepted. And in turn, that actually ended up hurting me a lot. And I overdosed a couple times. One time I overdosed in one of my friend's bathrooms, and she had no idea. She thought I was just like in the bathroom for a real long time. No, I fully like passed out and was not okay afterwards. And then one time I overdosed on another drug, and my mom was a witness to that. And my mom's the most loving, kind human being on this planet, and she's so compassionate and so understanding, and she's always been my best friend. And when she saw me the day after I overdosed on something, I've never seen her so disappointed in me in my life. And that was enough for me to kind of pump the brakes on that. But of course, when you struggle with substance abuse, when you stop one substance, you replace it with something else. So then drinking was like the next thing. And, you know, I wouldn't have a stop button, and I would drink so much that when I did drink, I would say awful, awful things to my friends. I'd have very high emotional reactivity. I would just be letting out all this pain, and I ruined so many relationships from that. Another way that self-sabotaging showed up for me in my life was very explosive, hysterical, emotional responses to small things. Anytime I would get into an argument with anyone, friends, family, someone I was dating, I would try and say they hurt me. Maybe they said something that really hurt my feelings. I would say the most hurtful thing on the planet to try to hurt them back so that I would feel like I won. Something I learned at Onsite was what's hysterical is historical, meaning if you have a very overtly reactive response in a situation to something that is like considerably small, it's largely due to the fact that you're responding to that trauma, not that event that's happening right here, right now. A lot of the times, you know, what we have left unhealed, we respond to and react to, you know, very explosively, very overtly emotional, needing attention from the opposite sex all the time. When I was in college, that pushed away a lot of my friends, mostly because, not because I did anything too outlandish or crazy, but mostly because, like, I would focus so much on boys and being boy crazy that I would forget about my friends completely. I was so overtly selfish that I pushed away a lot of people because growing up, I did everything for everyone else and I never got to live my own life. So then when I went to college and I experienced that independence and being able to do whatever I wanted to do and just living my life, I took it to an extreme. You can't change the behavior that you did in your past. You never will. But what matters is that you have learned from it and that you know not to make those mistakes again. I've made so many mistakes, I've lost so many people, I've lost so many friends, that was enough for me to stop and go, okay, I don't want to be this person anymore. The pain was just so much for me. I was even destroying relationships within my own family. I always felt like it was me against everyone else. I always felt like I needed to be fighting emotionally to be heard, to be seen, and to be acknowledged. It doesn't make me a bad person. It doesn't make me someone that, you know, needs to like punish themselves for the rest of their lives. Ultimately, how I healed from those self-sabotaging relationships was healing my childhood trauma. I took it step by step by step, and I went into each one of those behaviors and asked myself, okay, well, why am I really doing this? I love writing, so I love writing things down and breaking it apart one by one. So I'd write at the top of like a piece of paper, okay, this is my self-sabotaging trait that I've been doing that I don't really like very much. So I write down lying. I'd write down 3 examples. You don't have to do all of them. Like, this isn't the Ghost of Christmas Past. We don't need to go back to each like chapter and really sit there and figure out why we did what we did and learn a really hard lesson. No, you don't need to torture yourself. This is where our self-awareness comes into being our strength. If you're self-aware enough that you can use understanding why you do certain things to your advantage, that is how you heal from what you need to heal from. I write it down on the top of my paper, and then I'd list 3 examples of how I've lied in my life, like, when you lied. But, find the more bigger chunks of a heightened emotion that's tied to. So, for me, lying about being sick when really I was struggling with depression. Now that you've written those down, it makes it real. And that might be tough for you to see at first. Then the next step after that is, I'd go, okay, why? What was the reason why I lied for each one of those things? And if you stop and you break down the reason, then you can kind of see it a little bit more clearly. Then the next step for me of what I did is I linked back a time in my childhood where I felt it was necessary for me to lie. Like, why was it necessary for me to lie as a child? Oh, because I was so scared of getting emotionally abused that I felt like if I didn't lie, I'd get my ass handed to me. A lot of these self-sabotaging behaviors that we have, you'll find was a survival tactic from when you were younger. If you've had anything that has popped up in your head that you might think maybe a self-sabotaging behavior that you're doing, bring it up with the therapist. This is your journey, and everyone's journey is unique. What I do isn't going to work for everyone else. I hope you liked this video. I hope it was helpful, and I hope you know that you're not alone. We all have different types of self-sabotaging behavior that we do. It's normal. It's completely normal. What matters is that you try to figure out ways that help you heal from them so that you don't keep repeating them. And they're not going to stop overnight. Some of these things may take a little bit more time for us to stop doing or healing from. But if you know about it and you can catch yourself in the moment doing it, then it's easier from that point onwards to, stop doing that behavior. And there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you if you've done all these things. There's nothing wrong with you if you've pushed a bunch of people away. It's okay. We all do it. We all make mistakes. We all have issues that we're trying to work through, and that's okay. And if you liked this video and it resonated with you, please hit the like button. The more you interact with my videos, the more that it pushes my content out to more people, and then we can help more people and come together. So yeah, but other than that, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week, and remember, you have to get through the eye of the storm to see the clear day ahead. Thanks so much, guys, and I'll see you next time.